bitch. Hell, no, don't. Let me tell you something. Hey. Let me tell you something.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know this beat, it's your girl KylerB coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about the Traitors US Season 2 Episode 9. Let's get right into the video. So in this episode, we pick up where we left off with Phaedra basically asking or sending that invitation to Kate to see if she wanted to be a traitor or not. And, you know, she meets Kate face to face. If Kate accepts, she's a traitor. If Kate denies it, then she is murdered by Phaedra. So while Kate accepts the invitation to be a traitor with Phaedra, she's like finding out what went wrong with Dan Parvati, like, you know, who was the first traitors, who got recruited, this and that and the third.
Oh, it started you and Dan? Oh God, yeah. It's like eating dry milk with toast with no butter, no jam, no nothing. That is totally the vibe I got.
And, you know, she's also noticing that, you know, Phaedra doesn't really have a game plan in moving forward. She's like asking Kate, like, okay, who do we think we should murder? So they narrowed it down to Kevin and Trishelle. Trishelle had a shield, but Peter once again said not to tell anybody that, you know, Trishelle has a shield or whoever has a shield. So with that being said, you know, they decide to murder somebody. We get to breakfast in the morning and, you know, everybody comes in. You know, Kate's a traitor, so she has to move or react as a way of a traitor. But I guess she was a bit, you know, off her game. So MJ was like asking her, like, are you okay? Are you good? Are you okay? Like, just to see if she was good. And I guess Kate felt like she was being called out. Anyway, moving on, we find out that they murdered Kevin. Kevin's gone. And with that fact, you know, was good that they didn't murder Trishelle, because Trishelle had a shield and that would have been a backfire murder. And it would have been, you know, point blank, like, okay, Phaedra is the traitor. So we get in and everybody has to get their game plan, because now that Kevin's gone, that's one more, you know, person out of Peter's pen pals, you know, Peter's little group of, you know, who he, you know, talks game with, which is Trishelle, himself, and John. So they're like, what's the game plan? What's the game plan moving forward? So they were like, they need 5 votes. It's only 9 of them there. It's going to be a 4-5 vote to whoever gets sent home. So if they want to go after Phaedra, but Peter's name is getting thrown in as well. Sandra, they were trying to get Rainin, Sandra, and CT, but Sandra and CT were just like, no. Peter, I think Peter's a traitor. He's very wishy-washy, da-da-da-da. He was just basically making deals with Parvati, even though he knows for a fact that Parvati is a traitor. So why would he make deals with traitors? So they get into today's mission, and they had to shoot arrows, daggers, at stained glass windows with their names on it. So there's only 9 contestants left. There's 9 stained glasses. If the last glass that's left unshattered, you know, the person wins, you know, a shield. And then every miss, you know, arrow is, you know, $250 lost from their prize pot. They could win up to $25,000. So with miss arrows, we're getting miss arrows after miss arrows after miss arrows. So they had a plan, you know, they were just going first to who they want to pick. And, you know, they picked John. Most people went after John, and they were missing John's name. So then they went over to Cherie's name, you know, MJ, you know, Peter, you know, they were just basically saying, like, you know, the more that we keep missing arrows, the more money that we're losing, and that's not good for the group. So they're just like, okay, what's the strategy? You know, Peter's name was in the middle, Cherie's name was around that area as well, and I think John's name was right at the top in the middle. So, and at the bottom, like the bottom right corner, Trishelle's name was there. So we get down to the 4 names left, which was CT, Trishelle, John, and Kate. So they wasted 7 arrows trying to get CT's name with the arrow to take him off from getting a shield. With that being said, Sandra said, well, let's try to go for Trishelle. Everybody next to Trishelle is already gone, so let's try to go for Trishelle. So, Phaedra in agreement was like, yeah, let's go. Like, sure, that makes a lot of sense. So CT was sitting right beside them, and he heard everything that was said. So Phaedra, she went after Trishelle, to take the dagger, dart, arrow, and, go through her glass. She missed, but, Kate got her stained glass window. But everybody was like kind of like looking at, Phaedra like she was being very shady because, she agreed with Sandra's, suggestion to go after Trishelle's stained glass window. Anyway, with that being said, either way, Trishelle's name got, the dagger through it. She's not in the running for a shield. So the names were left was Kate, John, and CT. Kate's name got daggered through it by Phaedra, and then it was just John and CT. CT went next, and it was a 50-50 shot, and he took out John's name, and CT ends up winning the shield. But CT feels very uneasy with the fact that I guess Sandra and Phaedra, decided to go after Trishelle's name, and they're like, oh, you intentionally prevented Trishelle from getting a shield. So he's like, okay, that makes you a traitor because that's a telltale traitor sign. So anyways, moving along, they get back to, the castle, and, they have to get ready for the round table. So with, CT's basically like his whole trajectory, his mind from Peter went straight to Phaedra. Like he just said that was like a telltale traitor sign that Phaedra did was going after Trishelle. That's a telltale traitor sign, so he's gonna go after Phaedra tonight. They were trying to get the group to basically, try to get their mind towards Phaedra. They need the numbers because there are only 3 of them. They need 2 more votes and they'll be good to keep Peter. So Trishelle goes into the room, talks to the Bravo girls, and she's talking, and then MJ basically pipes up and basically says, well, no, I'm not loyal, going with blind loyalty with Phaedra. Like, if you say, have a good argument of who's a traitor, then I'm going to vote for who's a traitor because I want to win this game, obviously. So Trishelle's good about that, but, Kay and Cherie is like, they still are not going to vote against Phaedra for any type of reason. So Peter decides to, bring Phaedra out of the room to speak to her one-on-one, knowing for a good and fact that he's trying to get Trishelle to get the votes against Phaedra. So they're chatting, and Trishelle is trying to do something. Kate's listening, but Kate got caught. Get to the round table, and John starts off with this long monologue talking about how Phaedra is fly by night, under the radar, traitor, and you need to get banished and da.
Now is not the time to sit on the fence. You have to confront and defeat the enemy. You are a traitor and you should be banished until eternity.
I'm glad you're my God. Now, you speak very eloquently, and unfortunately this is not Parliament. So you could bring it down a notch and just get to the point, and we would really appreciate it.
He just was so long-winded with it, basically saying this, that. I mean, his read on Phaedra was fairly correct. I'm not gonna, take that away from him. He gave some good reads on how Phaedra was playing this game, because throughout the entire episode, Kate was basically saying, you've been a traitor from day one, and you're still looking to me, for advice of how to navigate this game, and we're in the last half of this game. You should already know what you're supposed to be doing. And that's kind of one of Phaedra's flaws in this game, is that she never really took the reins as being a traitor. She just let Dan and Parvati do the work. And, you know, like make these big, bold decisions. And I guess only if asked, she might give like an opinion on, you know, who to murder or not to murder. But she never really had like a strategy of how to navigate this traitor game. And, you know, Kate's just kind of like, you know, a little bewildered by that, because it's just like, I just got here and you still don't have a clue what to do. But, you know, Phaedra, she came into round table ready to still fight for her name. There were some good points on Phaedra. Like, if you're really thinking logically here, there was very good points to vote out Phaedra. But Peter was also acting suspect and wishy-washy from time. So it's like, where do you go from here? So, you know, Phaedra, she had a rebuttal. She read John. She read Trishelle. CT basically came out of nowhere and basically said, well, you know, why would you go after Trishelle's name if you wouldn't just move over from CT and go after John's name? So he was just like, you know, that seems like you was trying to, you know, sabotage Trishelle from getting a shield. So that was their proof of evidence of why they should take out Phaedra. Also, Phaedra read Peter down. She said, this is not The Bachelor, and I don't have to kiss your butt for a rose.
Think that you can play all of these tricks. Plant this here, I'm going to plant this here. I'm a true faithful. What you might have forgot, Peter, is this is not The Bachelor. I don't have to kiss your ass for a rose.
And Peter felt so like hurt by that he just kind of like was so upset with Phaedra and basically was just like, you know, I'm still gonna vote for you, da 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 da. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense that, you know, like I'm not a selfish player. Like everything that I did was for the group. But the thing about it, like, yeah, he does have a point that in Game of Traitors that, you know, you should have open, you know, private conversations. But in the terms of, you have a group of 5 people, and when NJ and others try to go into the room to, you know, join the conversation, you turn them away. So that just looks very suspect of you. So I mean, granted, yeah, in the Game of Traitors, you're trying to keep conversations private because you don't know who's listening or who's listening to the conversation. But that still looks very suspect of you. Everybody, it's not even just Phaedra, everybody felt a type of way that you're seeming very shady of that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have did like, you know, have a one-on-one conversation of just you and one person, yes, but having these big, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a group talking, and when somebody tries to join and you don't want them in that conversation, that does not look right at all. So, you know, he said, well, look at the Bergie situation. You know, why would I, you know, misfire on Bergie if I was a traitor? You know what I'm saying? So he's like, that's the evidence that I'm not the traitor. Anyway, that was the end of the whole round table. But I mean, logically, there's a lot of evidence of why Phaedra could have been a traitor, because they said both Dan and Parvati named Phaedra as a traitor. Parvati voted for Phaedra, and Dan, he named Phaedra as a traitor. You know, that's what John was saying, and he does have a good point. Like, why the 2 traitors that they got banished and got right named you as the 3rd traitor? So, I mean, it makes sense, and I really feel like Dan and Parvati ruined Phaedra's game, because if Phaedra actually had a hold on this game in terms of actually making moves, like solid moves, like in this game, then they wouldn't have had tried to get the one up on her. I mean, they luckily did not try to get her, but for Phaedra's sake. But you know, Dan and Parvati ruined Phaedra's game. So if they don't get Phaedra out in this banishment, the next one they're gonna get Phaedra out. But there's down to 8 people, 8 to 7 people. I mean, I feel like if Phaedra gets banished, then Kate, who's the new traitor, she might make it to the end. But it's gonna be still a very rocky road, because she's just a fresh traitor you know, that might win the whole thing. But I feel like Sandra might win this, to be honest, because Sandra, like, people are naming her as traitors because she's, you know, close with Phaedra or whatever, or others, and they're like, oh, Sandra had to be a traitor. But it's really Sandra's decision that made Phaedra, you know, target Trishelle, because it made, you know, decent sense. Because if Phaedra actually brought up, well, we wasted 7, you know, things on your name, then, you know, let's go down here. They went to the round table. It was 4 votes for Peter and 4 votes for Phaedra. CT, Trishelle, Peter, and John voted for Phaedra. And the votes for Peter was Phaedra, Cherie, Kate, and Sandra. And MJ has a deciding vote, and that's where the episode ended. So we don't know where MJ voted for, but I feel like MJ would have voted for Peter. But because there's just a lot of evidence, it's just like everyone's saying, well, you could have voted out Parvati and you chose to go on Phaedra, and now we're supposed to trust you this week that you're not a traitor. So, but like Kate said, you know, after it gets revealed, if and when Peter gets Spanish that he's not a traitor, and he says he's not a traitor, then they're gonna have to circle back and be like, well, then who is it? Who is the traitor? Da 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 da. But yeah, if they don't get Phaedra out this week, they're gonna come after her next week, because that's the only logical thing. You know, if she survived the last 3 banishments, like, it's only logical. Now, who that she decides to murder, I feel like Trishelle already said, well, if I get murdered, it's Phaedra. And John just said, if I get murdered, it's Phaedra. And CT has a shield, so it's kind of hard to vote for anybody else. So, you know, it's kind of hard to vote for anybody else. So who would they get out of this whole situation? I feel like their best bet should be John still. Because trying to get Trishelle, I mean, the thing is, Trishelle said it in a little group setting and not at the round table. So they do try to get Trishelle, then Trishelle's gone. But at the end of the day, that was episode 9 of the Traitors US season 2. And let's see what the next episode brings, because this cliffhanger on MJ's deciding vote was not right. But anyway, guys, if you guys like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns, any unsubscribed to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.